What do you think about when you hear new graduate recruitment in Japan? For many of you, it's understandably something that you've never thought about. For some of you, you may imagine dozens of students wearing matching black suits, similar black haircuts, attending group interview sessions. Today we want to take a deep dive into this strange world of SHUKATSU, or SHUKATSU for short, otherwise known as job hunting. We'll first be taking a look at why this employment structure even exists in its current form. We'll then cover 3 significantly different characteristics of Japan's approach to graduation recruitment compared to that of the West. The machine that is job hunting in Japan's arguably biggest characteristic would be the culture of graduating and then moving directly into full-time work. Every year, there's a consensus among government, businesses, and academia on the schedule of the year's recruiting process. Employment rates out of colleges and universities in Japan is among the highest in the world, with over 97.6% in Japan compared to 70% in Australia and 64.9% in the US finding employment within the first 6 months after graduating. Of course, this difference is also greatly affected by the widespread labour shortage amid a greying population, with the Education Minister stating that the number of job openings substantially exceed that of job seekers. Universities often work closely with companies, with the percentage of new graduate hires being a point of pride for the universities, who use this number as a selling point to encourage high school students to apply. For example, 99.1% of students who graduated from Tokyo University, which is considered to be Japan's top university by most measuring standards, compared to only 85% from Hokkaido University, found employment in the first 6 months after graduation. Walking you quickly through the process, in March every year, Japan's companies share their employment requirements to the universities and the New-Grad recruitment agencies. Towards the end of May, companies and soon-to-be New-Grads participate in a practice called setsumekai, or information sessions, where companies sell themselves in an attempt to attract the top students from each university to apply for a New-Grad position with them. After receiving and screening all the new applications, interviews start around mid-June. Offers are then distributed to successful applicants by the end of July. By the way, it's not uncommon at all for Japan's largest enterprise companies to hire upwards of 1,000 graduates in 1 year. For the more old school and traditional Japanese companies like Panasonic and Toyota, they place an extremely high level of importance on the students to follow this proper hiring process. Quite often it becomes incredibly challenging for graduates to join the workforce if they do not do so directly after they graduate. On the other hand, in the West, many graduates may take some time off or try their hand at living overseas where they don't have the responsibilities that come with employment, a mortgage, or any children to look after. However, in Japan, if you do decide to take a year off after graduating, many employers will see this as a red flag and interpret it as you may be potentially irresponsible or unable to remain loyal to the firm. So why has this system become so widespread and accepted as the correct approach to new grad employment? Well, the culture of using graduates as a tool of mass employment has been a custom that's been around for a very long time. The system was first implemented by 2 of Japan's oldest and most successful companies, Mitsubishi and Mitsui Bank, in 1895. The labour shortage that resulted from the First World War popularised SHUKATSU throughout Japan, and the process of finding employment before graduation became a common practice. In the post-war era of the 1950s, Japan experienced the biggest economic boom in history and rapidly became the world's second-largest economy after its newfound ally, the United States. This period of growth further deepened the custom of SHUKATSU in Japan's employment culture. Although in more recent years, Japan's economy has somewhat plateaued, companies have continued the tradition of new grad hiring. Another reason for its longevity is that there are merits on both the employer side and the new grad side. For the companies, there are 2 major merits. Firstly, it's an extremely cost-efficient way of mass recruiting. Of course, hiring people outside of this system occurs regularly in Japan. However, it often involves a recruitment agent that scouts potential fits for the open position and works off incentive payment structure of up to 50% of the annual salary, making it an incredibly expensive way to recruit in comparison. The other merit for the companies is that they can mold these new grads into whatever skill set they need. Surprisingly, many companies don't hire new grads for a specific role in mind, but rather after they complete the 1-month training, they are then placed into the department that the company deems most suitable. And then as for the student, the main merit for them is that even with no practical experience, they're able to work at these massive established companies that can offer career paths specifically designed for new grads to not only develop their craft, but also to keep them in the company for years. This leads us to the second point I want to introduce, the concept of potential hiring. It doesn't mean the likelihood of employment, but rather that the candidate shows potential to be mended into something that can add value to the company in the future. Roughly 90% of all new grad hires are categorized as potential hires, with only 10% being hired for a specific role. Compared to the West, where most new grads are hired for a specific title assigned to them, like junior associate or junior consultant, Japan does not operate in that way. Not only this, in the West, new grads are hired for positions that relate to their major or their practical experience in the form of their internships. Quite often, the West has internship programs that lead to job offers if the company's management thinks that that person will fit that role. In Japan, however, this is not the case. Once the new grads start their new job, they essentially have to make the case why they should be selected for a certain department. In fact, many students with majors in specific fields end up being placed in departments that are completely unrelated to what they studied. A friend of mine who studied specialized semiconductor research in university was actually placed in systems engineers department, which was almost irrelevant to his education. University placement is an incredibly tedious and difficult road for many students, with many entrance exams and a lot of cramming hours involved. However, according to most students, graduating on the other hand is relatively, I dare say, easy. When asked what students spend most of their time and energy on in university, number 1 was their circle, which means their university social club. Number 2 was baito, which means their part-time work. And number 3 was sex, which means, well, sex. When asked why students go to university in the first place, the most common answer was, university is my ticket to be able to find work at a decent company. Rarely do interviewers ask things like, what did you study, what was your major, and how can you apply what you've learned here? Instead, interviews usually include questions like, when you were at university, how did you most apply yourself? Or, when you face hurdles in your life, how did you overcome them? So rather than focusing on education and what the candidate can do with their current limited skill set, companies place more importance on characteristics that are deemed to increase the chance that this person will be a valuable asset in the long-term future of the company, like mental toughness, adaptability, and ability to cooperate with other people. This brings me to the third point that I want to introduce. Companies value traits like strong cooperation skills and communication skills over individuality. This is also reflected in Hofstede's study, which found that Japan only scores a 46 on individualism, whereas the US scores a 91. Since Japan is such a collectivist society, it makes sense that interviewers value group leadership rather than individual initiative. It is common practice for companies to entertain their business associates or clients. One major way this is done is by taking them out to dinner. Employees are expected to woo their clients, often for several hours over dinner, which often continues to a drinking bar for nijikai, which translates to second party. A lot of the time, if the client are predominantly men, the company will send a high-ranking manager along with 2 or 3 girls as entertainment. And remember, these girls are professional salary women and not at all involved with the entertainment industry. Although it's an old ritualistic, communal and time-consuming custom, it is still considered common practice, and it's another reason why interviewers may steer clear of candidates who show too much individualism, as they may clash not only with other employees within the company but also their clients. Of course, there are companies that do appreciate individualism and diversity. However, most value teamwork and cooperation more. Unsurprisingly, the companies that are more accepting towards individuality are more often than not international companies, and Japanese companies, also unsurprisingly, have a tendency to value teamwork and cooperativeness more. So most interviews consist of at least one group work assignment in the screening process before offering individual interviews. A group of 4 to 8 people are given a problem. For example, they must make a product to propose in response to a problem. They then must present it together with their team members. This is essentially testing to screen out any candidates who may become a potential problem and disrupt the status quo, by seeing how they interact and work with other people. The importance of teamwork and cooperation is also reflected in clothing and hairstyles, with almost all new grads dyeing their hair from brown or blonde to black during the job hunting period. As well as this, almost all students wear the same black suits and white shirts from Aoki or Aoyama. The idea that you have to sell yourself without showing your individuality, whether that may be through your personality or the way you dress, has in recent decades faced more and more criticism, not just from outside Japan, but also from Japanese people. One other thing to note is the importance that companies put on circle participation. As alluded to previously, circles are the clubs that students join during their time at university, whether it be sports, music, or education groups. Students who were not part of a circle will no doubt face questions as to why this was the case, and they have to make the case to the interviewers to prove that they are in fact a team player. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about Japan's New-Grad machine, and how does it differ to the New-Grad hiring process in your country? Also, what do you guys think about this type of video? I think we want to move to a more informative, longer form video, rather than shorter videos that cover cruder topics. Anyway, any feedback would be greatly appreciated, and we read each and every single comment. If you like this type of video, please give us a like, and don't forget to comment on the video. Since we are just a baby little channel at the moment, this is actually we've just passed 1 month since we first created this account. We really do appreciate every single like and comment and engagement that you guys have with us. But yeah, any feedback would be greatly appreciated. Please everyone stay safe out there. Thank you very much.